So in 2016, the UK voted in a national referendum to leave the European Union. This historical vote moved Britain a step closer to becoming the first nation in history to leave the EU. But why did the nation vote this way? Here are 5 reasons why Britain voted to leave the European Union. Reason 1. Sovereignty. The EU has a large impact on law in the United Kingdom. During the Leave campaign, many figures were thrown around, such as 62% of UK law is determined by the EU. But these figures, in reality, don't really mean anything. The fact is, the EU plays a significant role in UK law in some sectors, such as trade, regulation of products, and competition law, but plays a small role in other areas, such as healthcare and public order. Many citizens of the UK find this disturbing because they did not elect and have very little power to get rid of the people in the EU making these rules. Democracy is a key value in the UK, and the democratic deficit of the EU was a large part of why Britain voted to leave. Reason 2. The free movement of people. The EU's single market theoretically has 4 freedoms: the freedom of capital, labour, goods and services. The free movement of labour means that any person from any member state of the EU can live and work in any other member state, no questions asked. This idea has positives and negatives. The big issue here is that in 2004, many Eastern European countries joined the EU, and then in 2007, Bulgaria and Romania joined too. The issue here is you have a large group of countries with far lower average salaries and far less generous welfare systems than the UK being allowed free movement into the United Kingdom. The inevitable consequence of this is mass immigration into the UK from these countries. Immigration into the UK from the EU before 2004 averaged around 60,000 people per year. But by 2013, inflows into the UK from the EU were at 200,000 people, jumping to 260,000 people in 2014. Since 2004, the support of UKIP rose massively, showing this is an issue for the people of Britain. This point is not racist. It is not immigration itself that is the issue, but it is the mass and uncontrolled scale that gets the people worried. Firstly, a mass influx of mostly unskilled labour has a big effect on the wages of the working class in the UK. This is simple economics. If there is a massive increase in the supply of low-skilled labour, the wage of this labour will decrease or at least flatline in the UK. Secondly, no matter what progressive PC types would like you to think, there is such a thing as culture, and cultures are different in different areas of the world. There is no reason that the people of Romania, for example, would hold the same values as the people of the UK. This means that when a massive influx of people from these countries come into communities, the entire culture of these places can change. This is a major issue for people in such places, reflected in the positive correlation between the percentage of people who voted leave in an area and the level of immigration of Eastern Europeans into an area. The non-British population of Boston, for example, grew by a factor of 16. It also had the highest percentage of Leave voters in the whole country. Reason 3. A vote against the establishment. The feeling of disconnect between the people of Britain and the people running the country has grown in recent years. The working people of Britain increasingly feel they lack a voice. There are many reasons for this, including the austerity policies which have been in place since 2010 and the effects of globalisation on the UK labour market. Voting to leave the EU is seen by many as a middle finger to the political class and as a chance to regain control of a country many feel they have lost. I believe the association of the EU and the establishment was summed up in no better way than by the main people who supported the Remain campaign. We saw on our TV screens David Cameron and George Osborne, the Prime Minister and Chancellor in charge of the austerity measures since 2010. We also saw Nick Clegg, the man who joined forces with the formerly mentioned Tory government and is hated by many for not scrapping university tuitions when he did so. And then we look on the other side and we see Nigel Farage, a man who seems to never be photographed without a pint in his hand and cigarette in his mouth, a reflection of the classic English bloke. Reason 4. Misleading information. The most famous example of this was the bus advertisement claiming that £350 million would be available for the NHS if we voted leave due to us not paying money to the EU every year. This figure is misleading in two ways. 1. The UK receives a rebate of its contributions to the EU of around 40%. This figure uses the yearly contribution to the EU before this rebate, so the figure is inflated. Also, everyone in the Leave camp knew that even if we did receive this money back, there is no chance of it all being spent on the NHS. Immoral? I would say so. Effective? Most definitely. Though this definitely swayed the vote, I would counter this point with the fact that the Remain campaign were not innocent themselves. Much misleading information was given. For example, they predicted a recession. It didn't happen. George Osborne predicted tax rises and spending cuts. Nope. And they predicted unemployment would increase and 3 million jobs would be lost. At this point, unemployment remains very low. David Cameron even said he wouldn't resign if he lost. And here we are with Theresa May. Reason 5. Demography. The older a person was in this vote, the more likely they were to vote leave, and the more likely they were to vote at all. 64% of eligible people aged between 18 and 24 voted, compared to 90% of people aged over 65. The older generations remember a time before joining the EU, so they may have believed that that time was better, so decided to vote leave. Whether this is the case or not, around 70% of people younger than 25 voted Remain, and 64% of people older than 65 voted leave. So age of voter definitely played a role in the UK's decision to vote leave. Thank you for watching this video. Did you enjoy this video? Do you disagree with anything we had to say? Do you just want to complain and trigger some people? No matter what you have to say, we want to hear. So leave a comment below. And if you're a great human being, hit that like button and subscribe for more 5 Reasons Why videos. Have a great day.